We made it. We're live. Hey, everybody. I'm David. This is High Shelf Gaming, and tonight we are doing World Building with LegendKeeper. This is a monthly series that we've been like oddly consistent with. When we started this, we had so much fun at Gen Con, and I was like, let's do this every month. And all three of you were like, yeah, let's do it. And we actually did it. We're like 5 months in.
Take that, everyone that can't get their schedules to line up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Astonishingly consistent.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So over here is Braden, maker of LegendKeeper. Braden, dude, welcome back to the channel. And
Hello.
thank you for making LegendKeeper the thing that we all love and adore. And hopefully the folks watching at home are feeling the same with your questions and everything. So Braden, thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And over here, right next to me, is Anto from Icarus Games and your amazing YouTube channel all about world building.
Greetings, people of the internet. How are we all?
Yeah, you were just live, like on your stream.
I was.
Yeah.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, which is great. So you do like collaborative world building with your audience, which is a lot of fun and something I totally want to steal.
It's bonkers fun.
Good.
Like, just people throw out random ideas and you're like, okay, let's make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's good. That's good times. And next to Anto is Patrick Canuse from Two Brothers Gaming. Dude, welcome back.
Hey.
I love the shirt you're sporting today. Thank you. That feels good.
Yeah. Eventually, I have a LegendKeeper shirt to wear too, so that's not too far in the future.
Yes. Yeah. I have a lot of graphic tees, and my wife is like, "You can buy another graphic tee, but you got to get rid of one or two every time." And I'm like, "Man."
I'm in the same boat. So, in fact, I told her the other day, she like cleaned out a bunch of drawers. I said, "Oh, well, there's some in the closet." She's like, "You gotta be kidding me."
It's like, I like t-shirts. What? So we're working on it.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's not about the money. It's about the agreements of the house.
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. So yeah, a quick note to everybody in the chat. We are, hold on a second. Let me see. That might be something I can fix. One moment, Patrick. I'm covering you up with a volume meter. Okay. Let's see if Patrick, if you are less quiet now.
Yeah. Hey, maybe I am. Maybe I'm not.
Chat, let us know with that little test if that was good. Yeah, you're like in the yellow band for me, so I think that means you're good.
All right, cool.
But folks, let me know. We can always make adjustments. So, a couple announcements. Folks, please hit us with your questions. The right way to submit questions is to put like a big question in the very front and then put your question below that. The mods will be looking for, messages with the word question up the front and center, and they're going to be able to find that and put that into the chat that we are monitoring, right? So we're going to be talking with each other and maybe not watching super close on chat. But by all means, submit your questions. The mods will get them to us, and we will get to them tonight. Because LegendKeeper is dynamic. There's a lot of stuff going on, and there's always some good questions from the audience.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. Let's see here. I just want to make sure real quick. Other last minute announcements. Braden, what version are we on right now? What's it called again?
This is 0.8.
Okay.
So I just recent, like the last couple of weeks, redid the asset manager to kind of be a more like Dropbox kind of experience.
Yeah.
So far that's gone pretty well. You can, create custom folders and drop your images and maps and all that stuff. Before it was still the development version from like even before like the Fates update nearly. Like it was super old and it was time for the upgrade.
Yeah, very much so. And I love the new like asset manager because I have like a lot of NPC faces, and then I have like images of buildings and objects and things like that. And to be able to separate those things out has been really nice. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's been like weirdly nerve-wracking because usually when you push an update, there are lots and lots of bugs, and everyone's talkative and like, hey, fix this, please. But this update seemingly shipped with fewer bugs than normal, and so I've just been like why isn't anyone talking about their bugs? Like,
Oh,
what's going on? What did I do? Does anyone use LegendKeeper anymore? I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Just
Every
panic.
multiple times a week, I'm using this. So yeah, don't you worry.
Then I can go look at like the analytics and be like, okay, people are still here. Cool.
That's got to be like a source of like of comfort when you're like maybe having like a bad moment. You're like, I just want to look at the analytics. Ah, yeah. All right, cool. Cool.
There we go.
People
Yeah, we
are here.
actually hit our like record highest like requests per minute for non-nerd savvy tech folks. It's like the client, every time it talks to the server, that's a request, and so we hit like 2,500 a minute or whatever, which is
yes.
a new record.
Very cool.
I
Congrats.
like big numbers. I like them getting bigger. That's awesome.
I like
Yes.
the numbers when they go up. Yes.
Yes.
Well, I like it when that number goes up and the server doesn't explode. That's what I really like.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. So I think tonight we are planning on talking about holidays and some of the culture stuff that you might include in your world building efforts.
Yeah.
I really like this kind of stuff because I find holidays rather fascinating. Like the way we do it now is very official. There's like in the States, there's like an unofficial holiday certification thing where like you can submit a holiday and there's this group that says, yes, this is a holiday, or no, it's not. And like they get rid of some and they add some. And that's why there's always like a donut day or a coffee day or something like that. There's some board that is making holidays for us in the United States. And so I just find them really fascinating. And I'm really curious how all of you look at holidays in your worlds and how you seed those in to a place.
Never even considered like a board of holiday people. I mean, it makes sense. As soon as you think about it, like, well, of course, for that many people to acknowledge something, someone somewhere's got to be sitting down and putting a stamp on it. But
Right.
it just kind of blows your mind.
Last Saturday was National Pickle Day. So there
See,
you go.
somebody said this should be Pickle Day, and some group of people said yes.
You're absolutely right. The
kind of
Council of
power.
Holidays has chosen.
Yes.
Kind of power that someone wields to go, I decree that this is Pickle Day, and people listen to that. Just oof,
Oh,
incredible.
Yeah. So going from that to like, I imagine a lot of us see holidays as like generally a religious thing, right? Like in our culture that you're making, it's like, all right, the gods did this, and there was a cataclysm, so there's like a holiday for that cataclysm or something along those lines, right? That tends to be the thing.
The starting point. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anto, what do you do around holidays for your worlds or your games?
So I usually start with that kind of religious aspect. I go, okay, I've got a handful of gods. What are some interesting things that we can do with them? Yeah. So I've got a goddess of death, and one of the holidays surrounding that goddess of death is kind of a holiday devoted to sacrifice. And as part of that holiday, the community nominates someone to be sacrificed, and it is a great honor, and they have a whole thing with it, and everybody has a really good time until that one person has a really, really bad time.
Right.
But then I also kind of take a seasonal approach with the holidays as well, because there will typically throughout history be holidays associated with the changing of the seasons and kind of the allocation of food. So when you come to the end of harvest, anything that can't be kept for winter, have a big old party and celebrate and have some kind of holiday to use up that excess food to fatten everyone up for the winter. When it comes to the end of winter and you've got all this food that you've stockpiled for the end of winter and you're coming into the time where you're getting new crops, right, where you need to get rid of all that old food and have another party. So a lot of it is focused around kind of the distribution of food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like agricultural societies, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Like that's the juice. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. What about you, Patrick? Do you do much like holiday work in the kinds of world building that you do?
Yeah, well, actually, just this week I was working on what a holiday called it's actually the 10 Days of Luminescence in the fantasy world that I've been setting up. And it is very much tied to a religion. But I tied it to, because I think a lot, what Anto described, I think is very common, right? In terms of how sort of a lot of holidays come about, right? There's some God aspect to it. I think of Aztecs in Mexico, well, what's called Mexico, but at that time, there's holidays associated with sacrifice. But the 10 Days of Luminescence that I have is really about centered around the martyrdom of a prophet. That is kind of, I think it's almost like the next evolutionary stage. Here's the gods, and then as you start to have religious figures engaged with those religions, and what happens to them become pivotal moments around the religion, then people establish holidays for that. And I actually kind of tied it into sort of gift giving, right? That there's these kind of like these small little gift things, and tying it to sort of the nature of that particular religion. But as it has changed over time, it has become sort of also this place for lords, or in this particular cultural region, bays. So that's sort of a Middle Eastern term for a lord, swears fealty as their gift to the lords above them, and they then give them gifts that come down. And of course, this will create conflict because they have to give more and more gifts over time to keep them happy. But it sort of has become this kind of tradition amongst this particular religion.
I like that kind of political machination too, right? It's like there's a whole holy religious thing that like the common folk are likely participating in, but on the political front, it's like, are you participating well enough at this very important holiday? If not, you might get usurped. Like there may be a new lord taking over your position later on.
Yeah. Or you think of some of the Roman emperors. That hey,
yeah,
if you didn't properly worship, the god of that was established, that may say something about your loyalty to the current Trajan. Wait, you didn't worship Trajan,
so that's where I was going to go with this. Like, I really like to explore like the political ramifications of holidays, and Rome they had a lot of that. Famously, the New Year's was managed by the somebody in the government of Rome managed when New Year's occurred.
Yes.
Right. And when New Year's happened, a lot of things went into motion. Right. And one year, it was like Julius Caesar's year to manage when New Year's happened. And he just got real busy and just didn't make New Year's happen for like weeks or months even, I think. And because of that, all these things like started to kind of break because like I need a new year to collect taxes, or I need a new year to like do this or that, the other thing. And so I like to explore that kind of stuff whenever there's a holiday that gets taken over by a government. Is like, well, how does that now get influenced by the politics of that nation or of that culture or whatever, as they like fiddle with it, And like famously in Catholicism and Christianity, the movement of Easter and Christmas to kind of mirror up with a bunch of pagan religions to help bring in all the pagans. Like a lot of people know that story. And that kind of got me down that road on the whole holiday front of like, when do religions make compromises in order to gain more followers? And it was like, but wait, politicians get a hand in this too. And so I really like exploring that kind of stuff in the holidays. I'm trying to think of a good example I've got now, other than just flagrantly ripping off the New Year's thing. Because
but a lot of those, that it comes to politics too, because a lot of the Christian religions, not Catholic, but just the general Christian religions, were timed to be with Roman religious holidays.
Yeah,
because that's how they kind of helped, kind of kept people kind of in line coming into the faith without sort of overstepping and say, yeah, we're getting rid of your, Saturnalia, which you all like, we're just going to change it and call it this. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. And I think that that's one of those things that our own history provides just a ton of inspiration around holidays. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought I had somebody's about to say something. But yeah, the other aspect I think around all that is like whenever you have two. What I have not explored much yet is like the conflict between holidays or the conflict between two different cultures that have like very different holiday celebrations where like one's holiday may be like anathema to another. Like maybe one culture has like a bunch of singing and dancing and another culture like abhors dancing, right? Or whatever. I haven't really gotten too much into that kind of stuff yet, but I think that there's a lot you can do there to make your the world that you're creating for your players have some kind of like side conflicts that could suddenly like take center stage when the certain time of the year hits, and it's like, well, I don't know, how do you practice this holiday? Says a lot about your character to the folks around these parts.
One of the ways I kind of handle that is, again, with religion. All of the deities in my world have kind of multiple traits. So with like D&D, it would be multiple domains. And I tend to try and make it so that each domain can be manifested in its ultimate form, and you can get two religions that essentially worship the same deity, but are vastly different because they take two different parts of it to the extreme. So they might have a holiday that's general worship for that deity, but these two factions within the faith for that deity would celebrate that day in incredibly different ways because they're taking different parts of the faith as what is most important. And then you can have conflict inside a single religion because they're so opposed, like so extreme at the ends of what that deity is supposed to like represent.
Yeah, that's really neat. I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of that's really reminiscent of sort of the iconoclastic controversies of orthodoxy, where you sort of had these dueling parties within orthodoxy and the Byzantine Empire of, hey, we want to destroy all your icons. Wait, no, don't, because those are really representative of our religion, and there were extreme conflicts, and as a result of that. So yeah, I think that's really fantastic use of it, Anto.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the other things that you could do in the like one of the other aspects that I'm kind of running into now is like, as all of you know, if you've been watching a little bit, like I'm a big cyberpunk fan, and the new game just came out with all these lore updates. Well, there's all of these like global incidents that happened 20 something years ago, and the book doesn't mention holidays around them. But to me, it's like when the High Riders dropped rocks onto the Earth, that was a huge event. Probably somebody remembers that, right? So, just like we do when there's calamities in our world, be it windfalls or attacks or what have you. Like we remember when those happen, and we like recall them every year, right? And I gotta imagine that like in that world, there is, people remembering when the city was nuked, or they remember when the rocks fell. And I want to have some of that going on in there. And of course, people are going to have very different takes on that, right? Some people are going to think that that was a good thing, and some people think that's a bad thing, and like have issue around the date that occurred. And that's definitely something that I really want to do.
And the corporations aren't going to let you take that off.
Right. No, of course not. You got to work. You got to work on those days, even though it's a big memorance thing. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's one of the interesting things about holidays in the context of RPGs is that if you play across multiple campaigns, you can have holidays in subsequent campaigns marking days that your players played through. So in my current campaign, there is a holiday marked for the day that the kind of evil god that was the big bad for the last campaign was defeated, and that is a public holiday now.
Oh, fun.
So the characters get to experience that, but the players also get to go, well, we did that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I find the most interesting about holidays and kind of holiday practices in the context of RPGs is because you can't really do that any other way and have that kind of direct, you did this, it's because of the things you did in the last campaign that you're now having to do the things you're doing right now.
That's really neat. I love that. Like an in-game reward for the players. Like that's good. I love it when you show up because you always have something I want to steal for a game.
That's what I do. I just wear all these things that people can take from me.
Yes.
Talking about holidays from like a GMing perspective, I feel like holidays are a very interesting tool for storytelling as well. Like one of my favorite like story structures or tropes in like fiction is like kind of the fish out of water, character that is introduced to this world that was previously unknown to them, right? Because it makes a great author surrogate and it makes exposition part of the story rather than just exposition.
Yep.
And so holidays are another kind of point in time where you can kind of pull back the veil on the culture or history of your world without it feeling like a lore dump, right? Like, your characters can be invited to a ceremony or a festival, and naturally they might be like, "Oh, what's this festival about?" And the people around them are like, "Ha, you haven't heard of the blah blah blah," and they pick up pieces of why it's important as they kind of experience the holiday. It's a lot more experiential way of revealing that world building, right?
Right.
One of my favorite examples of usage of holidays is actually the Adventure Zone podcast that the McElroys did.
Yeah.
In that first season, in that first arc, they the DM used holidays as this really interesting way to kind of break up the not the monotony, but the monotony of like the kind of day-to-day progression of the story. And I think that's really interesting. It's an interesting way to give your players kind of a breather on the nonstop action, while also like I said, exploring like some of that background lore of the setting that you're in.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Well, I was going to say, as a story point, when do heists usually occur? Like New Year's Eve in Cyberpunk, right?
Right.
A heist, right?
Yeah.
The guard's going to be a little bit, maybe they're going to be drunk. Maybe there's going to be fewer of them.
Yeah.
You can use those, I agree that as story elements, that the holidays, the backdrop, because one of the things that I've always taken away, and it comes from film, where we get a lot of our tropes, but the director of LA Confidential one time said he went to his people setting up set and design and said, "I want you to pay attention to every single detail. I want it to be historically accurate, and I'm going to film it like it's not even there, because it's not a part. It helps with the story, but it is not the story. And so you want the authenticity of it, but you want the characters to come forth. So using that as a background, a holiday as a background that you're right, kind of isn't a lore dump, but introduces them to it, but yet still enables the story to be focused around what they're doing versus the holidays. I think that's excellent way to kind of add a lot of flavor to it without necessarily making it a part, unless it becomes a part of it. Like now you're gonna have to sacrifice a person.
Yeah, sure.
Wait,
yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. But like, I think that's right. You can describe like how the town kind of re-skins itself. People are setting up stages or setting up. They're taking down the normal banners. They're putting up these like purple and gold banners and yada yada yada. And then you start talking about how it's redressing itself, and then the nightlife begins, and all of that could be as flavor text and backdrop while they're having their adventure. And there may be points where that's poignant, right? Like you pass by a certain temple, you're expected to go in. Well, that might delay their time schedule on some level, stuff along those lines. You can use that as just kind of suturing them into that world. And that's one of those things that, like, whenever we go off and make our own worlds, that's kind of the goal, right? You want it to feel real. And one of the ways it feels real is when there's things happening that don't involve the characters.
Yeah.
That like the world is clearly moving on whether or not you engage. and it has its things that it does, that it cares about deeply, and you get to interact with them. But no matter what, like this festival is always going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And that helps make this town or this region or what have you just feel all that much more alive.
I think that having NPCs that care significantly more than the players will is a really good way to kind of pull the players in as well.
Yeah.
Because if you have a holiday celebration and it is culturally expected to give reverence in a specific way, then you can engage the players and be like, right, okay, this NPC has said that this is what's expected. What do you do? And then that choice point, if they choose to engage with it, they learn something about their character. Their character is someone that engages in these things.
Right.
If they say, no, I'm not going to, then they still learn something about their character, and there'll be consequences for those choices that come about as them learning information about the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's all good stuff. I love it. Trying to think. I wanted to, of course, talk about holidays, but I also want to give time for some questions because I know we always end up with a few questions from the audience. Thank you, chat, for reminding me about that creation. So one of the things that has come up a little bit just in my own community, talking about LegendKeeper and kind of what the future holds for the program, Braden, we all know that you're working on the community update, and you probably can't talk a lot about it, but there has been a lot of interest in folks wanting to make their own worlds or license the worlds from other people and get them into LegendKeeper in a shareable way. Is that something that you can high level talk about in terms of the future of LegendKeeper?
Yeah, absolutely. One of our goals with community is, I think before we might have talked about modules, right? Where there's content that other people have made that you can put into your world. But I think the nice thing about modules or whatever is the kind of the recursive nature of them. The fact that an entire project is also a module. So there's no reason why, let's say, it's an easy example. Wizards of the Coast, right?
Yeah.
Trademark, no affiliation whatsoever. Makes like a, Northwestern Faerun project, right? That has, map markers dotted around, Neverwinter and, all the important cities and dungeon locations, and it's tagged up and it's got lore and whatever. The intention is for a project like that to be able to be packaged up and put somewhere such that you can navigate to it on some kind of community front, right? And say, I want this. Cool. Within license and all that kind of stuff, right? Not piracy or anything, but just like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And then you hit like install or duplicate or clone, right? And then bam, it's just now you have a copy of it, and it's editable, because obviously yes, pre-made projects are useful, but inevitably, just this is how role playing works, right? You will modify that world, period.
Yeah,
right.
Your players will blow something up,
yes.
and you will need to erase it from the wiki,
yes.
or whatever, right?
Yes.
You will need to remove that map marker.
Yeah.
and then subsequently add a holiday commemorating the removal of that marker pin, or the changing of town name to Crater, where town once was, right?
Yeah. Crater of Duskfall, or whatever the name of the town is.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. That's something that we're very much wanting to do, and I'm actually right now working on exactly that, which is how do you take a project and make the whole thing copyable?
Yeah.
It's a fun technical problem, but we're making very, very good progress towards it.
That's great, man. That's so good. I can't wait to see it, obviously, right? I mean, all of us have asked you questions about that and are eagerly awaiting it. So I just wanted to kind of summarize the 3 questions we had been peppering you with over the last 4 weeks.
Oh yeah.
With that.
And also, speaking of holidays, after community, we're going to be taking on timeline. which for those of you unacquainted, it would be the ability to visualize the chronology of your world as a timeline or a calendar, right? And so obviously holidays are that's an easy win for holidays, right? Being able to say, here's when this happened. And then on the calendar, you say, all right, every, fourth Wednesday of Septemdas or whatever,
right?
Whatever your Elder Scrolls style month or day is, commemorate that event, right?
Yeah.
And that lets you ground yourself chronologically in your story.
Yeah, and to tie back to some procedural generation stuff we had talked about a long time ago, I think Donjon has like a I want to say I saw it on Donjon, like a celestial body thing where you could have a couple of different moons and it can tell you like when a bunch of them are in certain cycles and that kind of thing. And you could say, oh, well, I just want to see on the calendar when all 3 moons are going to be visible in the sky or whatever.
Yeah.
And then just mark those as holidays on my timeline, right? Because now I've got the timelines, I've got the heavenly bodies motions that I get from Donjon, right? And then I just mark holidays off of those, like every eclipse or whatever that comes up.
Yeah, I believe fantasycalendar.com does that as well.
Ah, hey, chat is already on that. Thank you so much, chat. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you all. Yeah. Oh man, phenomenal.
Yeah, fantasycalendar.com actually just had a big update too. They just kind of reskinned their site.
Oh, that's
very
great.
good.
That's fantastic. Yeah, folks, don't hesitate to toss some links. Oh, thank you so much, Katrina. Yeah, our mod Katrina tonight is quick with the links, so thank you all for doing that.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab those real quick from my damn self. All right, there we go.
Marking the passage of time, just in general, is such a useful tool.
Yeah,
as a GM, just keeping everything square in your head of this happened then. This is when this happens. This is coming up.
Yeah,
is so useful for kind of keeping an idea of what content do I want to put in front of my players. Like, oh, they've just started this month, in 5 days' time there's going to be a holiday. So I know that if they don't figure out anything to do, at least I've got this holiday to kind of put in front of them.
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because like one of the things I've struggled with, I haven't DM'd D&D in a while. It's the worldwide calamity has been calamitous for my D&D habit. But one of the things I struggle with as a DM is like enacting consequences for actions, good or bad. Like time passes, right? And your world keeps running, and things happen. The players, knocked over a bank or whatever. Like, eventually someone should come looking for them. And I feel like having a timeline, being able to say, like, for myself, go like a week forward in the future and say, like, start investigation, right? Or like 2 weeks in the future, say, think about introducing, this detective character and like have them cross paths.
Yes.
Or, that kind of thing.
That's how I handle it. So my players in recent months have done a multitude of terrible decisions, and whenever they do it,
high crimes.
I load up my like they found a job and kind of took a job step to escort someone that had broken the law across the country to stand trial, and they didn't take that job, which meant that a lower level party did and failed. So that crime boss is out in the world, and I noted in the calendar, right, this is when they've broken free of the caravan, this is when they've gone to this next city, and when the players get to that next city, that crime boss is going to be there, and they're going to see firsthand the results of their inaction. So
the way I do that, and this infuriates my players, or has maybe not infuriates them, but has recently bitten them in the ass. I remember when NPCs learn critical information to that NPC. It's like, yes, we had this conversation, and it was a good conversation. Everybody felt good at the end of that, but critical details were slipped, or not slipped, but just handed over as part of the discussion, as part of the conversation. And it's like, oh, this NPC did not know that information, right? And it's like,
so and so will remember this.
This is important for them to know later, right? Yeah, exactly. And that kind of stuff. You're absolutely the challenge of consequences is, one, remembering that it happened, right? And then two, having an appropriately sized response, right? Because like one thing is like investigator comes by, do they raid them? You know, do they like kick in the door, or do they come by and say, "Hey, I've got some questions. I hear you're in the area," right?
Yeah.
What is the response here, based on what that NPC would know? And I think that that's like timelines and all that kind of stuff really matter, and the ability to say, "This thing happened at this time. I want the calendar to remind me so many days in advance." That's really good, because then I can just put that as part of the updates to the characters. Like, hey, you've all been taking some downtime. Some rumors have filtered around that there's somebody asking about you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what is that? It's like, I don't know. Maybe it's a consequence for something you did. You know.
And in terms of kind of consequences, the way I handle consequences and approach it is always, what tone or feeling do I want to elicit from the players? So
yeah.
If they have committed a crime and there is someone now hunting them down, what would be the most dramatic way to kind of reveal that to them? Is someone kicking the door down and just a fight out of nowhere the way to do it? Or is it a case of someone having more of a social encounter where the detective knows that you've done it, and is just trying to maneuver the players into confessing?
Yeah.
And then you get a much more slow burn encounter where the tension doesn't come from the immediate threat, but from the threat of, oh, if we say the wrong thing, then we've screwed ourselves.
So one of the things I like doing, I haven't really gotten to do it a lot lately, is I borrow a lot from Westerns for this. Because Westerns is, I mean, that's, you know, they gather a posse, and that posse slowly tracks down and corners the target, right?
Yeah.
And at first, the target doesn't know about the posse, and then they hear rumors because one of their friends got taken.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, one of the things you can do with like timelines and all that kind of stuff is just seed in, like, at this point, this one shopkeep they like gets roughed up, and they find out about it, right? And then sometimes later, they find out that the town they just left had a bunch of people in it asking about them. And it's like, whoa. This group is already one town away from us. Like, it brings in tension, brings in urgency, right? It makes their world suddenly a lot smaller now that they know that there's something on them, right?
The posse idea is so much fun. That's how, in my last campaign, the first player death that we had was as a result of a posse.
Whoa.
And it wasn't the player, because the party wizard committed a crime and resulted in some bad things happening, and a posse was rounded up to go after the wizard, but it wasn't the wizard that died as a result of it. It was one of the other players. And then we got all that interpersonal drama inside the party because all the other characters knew that the wizard should have been the one that bit the bullet there, but wasn't. And then they had to attend the PC's funeral and meet their family, and their family were like, oh, you know, you were with him right to the end. And the monk was like, how dare the wizard stand here and do this? I'm fuming. It was just so good.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, so in my Star Wars campaign, which I think we're going to hit episode 15 tomorrow.
Nice.
I did got a lot of character background, right? And one of them is so it takes place right after A New Hope, so right after the Death Star, so the Empire's still around. His mother was a Jedi researcher, not a Jedi herself, but was a scholar of Jedi, and I had her arrested and put into an Imperial prison, and I gave them 2 targets. Like, hey, by the way, I came up with this before COVID-19. I gave them all. I infected them all with a virus, and this is playing out this entire year. And I'm like, wait, okay, but so they have to make a decision, right? Like, I need to go and deal with getting this vaccine and for myself and saving myself, and have a limited time period to do that. Wait, my mom's in trouble.
Right.
and she's probably going to be executed. And that's and being able to track that in the timeline, saying, okay, she's only got so much time left, and you've only got so much time left, and it forces them to make decisions or come up with interesting solutions about how they can accomplish both.
Yeah. Yeah, that timeline management, man, that's a really good stressor. It's a really good like inner conflict. Like that's one of the things that role-playing games typically don't do very well is inner conflict. But like timeline-based conflicts for that character, that's good. That's real good, I think.
The time crunch, the ticking clock, and the consequences, I feel, is the entire backbone of my game. It's what I build it on. Is there's always some kind of ticking clock, whether you know it or not, and everything you do will have a consequences, and almost all of it will be bad. Even if you make the right choice, someone's going to be missing out because of it.
Have you ever played Blades in the Dark?
I haven't.
I think you should try Blades in the Dark. The whole game is setting up clocks that tick down. And when they tick down, bad things happen. And it's a very formalized system of clock management. And the GM has like a clocks page full of all the bad stuff that is just happening.
I frequently, like, if the players are dithering or anything like that, I will just start a timer. I won't tell them what it's about. I'll just start a timer and just watch them panic.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Oh, man, that's good. That's really good.
Well, I found in, like, creating one-shots for, conferences and stuff, the best way to leap those people, the players in. Oh, I know nothing about you, GM.
Right.
And I've got 4 hours with you. You start off with the clock. Boom.
Yes.
You've got 48 hours to get that rebel spy out or take him out, and that's your mission. It helps provide that arrow of direction, particularly for con games where having people sort of figure out a sandboxy kind of thing.
Yeah.
You waste an hour. And it's like, wait a second, I'll wrap this up and make it fun.
Sit them down and be like, you've got a bomb in your head that's going to go off in 4 hours. This is who has the code to disarm it. Start rolling dice.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. The con game specifically has that problem, Patrick. You're absolutely right. It's everybody sits around and dithers and they like don't even know how to solve the first challenge, let alone like the whole game. And they've burned 3 hours on the first door or whatever. And then you're like, all right, well, I guess we didn't get to find out the end because we spent all this time on the first merchant, or whatever. But no, that's all good stuff. Braden, I did have a couple of questions from you from the community around like custom colors and table management, that kind of thing. I know that you have the info block, right? And I use the info block quite a bit. So like the info block, folks, if you do like /info, you can do a purple block, a green block, a blue block, red block. You can do a couple of different blocks, and in there have a bunch of text. What is like? I know this is kind of like in the weeds on like fonts and tables and all that kind of stuff, but what can people do today, and like down the road, what would you like them to be able to do with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so one of the things about the editor, like the inside, like the content, is that's actually one part of LegendKeeper that Justin, the designer of LegendKeeper, the visual designer, he hasn't really gotten his hands on that part yet. And so like while it looks okay, but like when Justin gets his hands on things, they become incredible. So I'm excited for him to get a chance to take a look at that stuff. As far as like what you can do today, like you mentioned, the various kind of call out blocks. In the future, we would like to expand that to where you can actually pick the icon and the color that the block can be, rather than it's kind of arbitrarily constrained to 5 colors and then 5 icons that aren't even like in the icon picker. And we would like to open that up more. Text color and background color is definitely something we want to introduce, where you can like choose from a palette, as well as what else? What we'd like to do, one thing that people ask about a lot is like having like a font being able to select from a bunch of fonts or being able to like modify the CSS. We'll probably never offer the ability to like customize the CSS of your page. Kind of one of LegendKeeper's goals is to be simple. And so the moment you step into like a specification language like CSS, you've kind of jumped the shark on simplicity. If someone has to learn CSS to make it look the way they want it to,
Right.
But what we would like to do is offer themes, being able to say, like right now we have just light and dark, but the theme system can technically talk to everything. So I'm imagining a world where LegendKeeper's current UI is kind of neutral modern, right? Like it's pretty sleek. It looks good. It's unopinionated. Fantasy stuff looks good in it. Sci-fi stuff looks good in it. But what happens if we create a theme that like makes the body of the wiki look like old paper, right? And then the left side, like you get the idea. Or a sci-fi theme where sci-fi stuff looks a lot more appropriate in it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's all definitely like within the realm of possibility and stuff that we want to do. And so to answer the fonts question, what I'm imagining is the changing of fonts coming with themes. Because another thing that is really important to us is we want to make it really hard to make something that looks bad in LegendKeeper. And that's not to like limit power users, even though by definition it kind of does, right? Like in the perfect control scenario, you can tweak every little thing. But what we want, also sorry for the cat meowing. My cat is meowing a lot.
Yeah. Good.
Someone just being able to jump in, right? And just start going. And no matter what they do, it still looks like this awesome page that they like want to share with their friends or share with the public or like whatever, right?
Right. Of course. Yeah. I mean, that's the hope. And I completely understand, like the moment you, there's this like design threat in like video games. If you give players too much like customization over vehicles or whatever, they have this concept of like time to penis, right? Yeah. It's like how long
TTP.
Yeah. How long until someone has designed a penis in your game that you never intended to be there?
Seconds.
Exactly. So I can completely understand, like, okay, we want this to be rather regimented for now so that we stylistically are always on a good foot forward, but unlocking certain things for customization is good, because then some people like organize their thoughts based on color, right? And they're like, all right, the blue text is this and red text is that and that kind of thing. But that may have different like stylistic impacts. So I completely understand what you're saying.
I do think it's also really good that, and appreciative that you didn't just come at it from a fantasy background.
Yes.
So I mean, I think we all love fantasy here.
Yes.
But I know Dave and I, we're cyberpunk, and and I'm a huge traveler, and and those kinds of things. And having it sort of be a bit neutral for me is preferable than having it to be sort of just themed as fantasy. So, I kind of really appreciate that. I think it would be great to have some themes that ultimately I could say, oh yeah, I want that for my Coriolis, RPG game. Or I want that for my, my fantasy setting. I think that's great. But I just as a sci-fi RPG or even playing, Delta Green modern, kind of stuff. I really appreciate that you've come at it from that standpoint and not just presumed a fantasy setting. So
yeah, that was one of the things that like when I first started working on LegendKeeper, I noticed that a lot of tools just assumed you were playing D&D, and I was like, but what if I'm not? What if I want to play, Microscope or something, cyberpunk, like you said, like
or my
seems
latest, like my latest terrible thing. What if I want to turn my YouTube project into a scrum board in LegendKeeper?
Oh my god!
Where each thing, or here, this one is better. Where each thing has the script and then the pictures I want to play alongside the script and all that stuff. What if I did that in LegendKeeper, huh?
As soon as Timeline's in, I'm leaving Trello behind, and I'm like, here we go.
Yeah, I'm not trying to like like shut down LegendKeeper here, but you've heard of Notion or Trello, right? Like
Yeah, but then I'd have to have a login with some site I don't care about.
Yeah. Homogeneity of everything in one place. That's what I want.
And
Like,
all I
interesting.
all I had to do for this was make one image real quick in Paint and be like, all right, cool, I'm ready to go.
That's amazing. They Justin and I talk about like the ultimate flex when it comes to editor software, and that's like when you make your documentation in your editor software itself.
Yes.
That's like that's our goal, right? That someday the LegendKeeper like help page, like the frequently asked questions, is just going to be a LegendKeeper world that you go to, right? And I think we've talked about that. I think we talked about that on like the first stream.
Yes,
But that's
right.
like the ultimate design flex.
Yes, it really is.
And I can see in my brain a version of that works like now. With
I think it's close.
The Atlas is such a powerful tool. I know when I put together my DM Bible for the future when sharing is a thing, I'm going to heavily utilize the Atlas as kind of a visual way to be like, right, click here to learn about this, click here for this, and kind of frame it around that.
Yeah.
Someone in chat said LegendKeeper turning into Emacs.
Yes. With a great emoji for that too. That's
never. Though
agroschism or agroskim, solid emote.
we do want to up our like keyboard shortcut game in general, right? There aren't a ton of keyboard shortcuts right now, and like even though LegendKeeper tries to be simple so that like very casual users can hop in,
right?
There's no reason why you can't build in features that power users can just like go with the speed of thought, right? So I definitely want to do that. One thing that's interesting, speaking of Notion, Notion is a knowledge management platform. A lot of like teams and like businesses use it to like organize their like knowledge bases or track their like design sprints or whatever, right?
Sure.
Notion actually added a timeline feature, and it's a timeline locked to the real world, so it's of limited helpfulness
to us,
like Fantasyland. Yeah. But it's really cool as like an example of what like a really nice timeline experience looks like. And so if anyone has a Notion account, I think it's free. So you can go play with the timeline and kind of get an idea of like the fidelity of the experience we're going to be going for.
That's cool. That's really cool.
I do notice we have a question regarding offline mode. Has there been any more work on an offline mode? Having your entire worlds of notes accessible if your internet or the server goes down could be a big problem. I totally agree. So I can't like be careful what I say here. I can't speak on it much, but offline might be coming sooner than I've previously implied, and that's all I can say. As you know, I don't give release dates for anything because they're just always wrong, especially as a solo software developer.
Sure,
you just never know when things are exploding.
Yeah.
There are some changing requirements out there in the world that are potentially necessitating offline to come sooner. So I'm really excited to kind of dig into that. But yeah, no, offline is definitely on my mind for sure, because I think any knowledge management writing platform worth its salt, honestly, more important than like just going offline is just the ability for the application to exist on devices that are connected to the internet, which are notorious for going offline and online and, getting out of sync and blah, blah, blah. Like LegendKeeper needs to have an answer to that. And it just so happens that offline mode, generally you try to solve that problem at the same time you solve offline because they're a similar problem. Because like all offline mode is an extended period of time where you got disconnected from the internet.
Right.
And so whether that's half a second or 2 weeks, you want your application to handle it gracefully. And so LegendKeeper will do that. It's just a matter of time.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I want to say that back in the before times when I could get on planes and go to places, the plane ride was probably my best time for really doing a lot of like my game planning and world building and all that kind of stuff, because I'm sitting there between strangers and there's nothing else I can do, and I probably haven't paid for the internet service, so I'm probably offline busting out Notepad or something like that on my tablet, and I'm just like banging away on Notepad. It's like, well, when I land, I better remember to take all this great sauce and put it into something that I'm going to access later, because I'm not going back to Notepad. I'm going to go to some online service, LegendKeeper, you know? So the ability to do that is desirable, right? And I'm glad to hear that it's a likelihood, right? And maybe even sooner than I think, as you say, which is great.
Yeah.
Dave, did you ask them though, the people on either side of you, which type of cyberpunk goons
you should
introduce?
I should be like, all right, so let me ask you this question. You got somebody chopping up somebody for parts, right? Where do they bring them to? Yeah, do they bring them to the fixer, or why are you calling the police? This is an odd thing for you to do.
You're there furiously typing, the one next to you is looking at you and like calling out a flight attendant like, we have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really the collaborative nature of LegendKeeper that makes offline really challenging. Obviously, if I could guarantee that your project had just one editor, right? Like offline is somewhat trivial, right? I just say whatever you did offline, just repeat it when you come online. But the challenge comes when, like, let's say all four of us are in the same project, and you go on a plane and I go on this plane, and some of you stay online, and we're all editing the same thing, right? What happens when I deleted the thing that you spent the next 3 hours typing into,
right?
And Anto reordered this and like moved this to be a parent of that, but I deleted that thing. Like there's all sorts of crazy stuff, and so when we all come back online, LegendKeeper has to be able to figure out how to interpret those different literal streams of reality we've created, like within our LegendKeeper project.
Right. Yeah. You don't know, but you are playing with like timelines, like you are playing with like time travel logistics.
Yeah.
We need to unscrew up this time travel shit that we just did.
Yeah.
The other thing is like your own devices. Like you might be typing away on your laptop, but the next time you get onto LegendKeeper is with your computer or whatever, and then the laptop later on comes online, and you've since made a bunch of other edits. You know, so not just different editors, but even different editing devices could also have play and all that. Right?
And of course, the nightmare scenario of like, I go offline for 4 years and then I come back online and expect everything to work while my project has been doing other stuff all in the meantime, right?
Right.
Or just even between your browser tabs, like LegendKeeper's current synchronization model works okay. Like it's not gonna like blow up a ton of stuff if it messes up. You might lose like a few sentences if you like go offline and like continue and don't notice, right? But it'll still like save kind of a local copy, and then you can go in and be like, let's restore this like 100% local copy manually, and that works, right? But it's like it's not ideal. Like you want LegendKeeper to be able to say, hey, I've noticed you've gone offline. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'll just figure it out when you connect again, right? And that's like, that's one of like the standards that's being established like in the industry right now. Like if you're on Notion or any other service like that, that's exactly what they'll do. Or Google Docs, right? It'll pop up and say, hey, you're offline, but whatever, just keep doing what you're doing. It's cool.
Oh, a fun question in chat. Why is it that I'm the most productive when I'm on a plane or a train? The reason why I'm the most productive is when I'm at home, there are innumerable distractions between like kiddo, my wife and I both work from home. There's chores galore for me to take care of. But when I'm on a plane, I can't do any of those things. And if I don't pay for the internet, I can't check work email. So my options are reduced down to be productive on the thing that that I can do offline, which is type notes into a notepad.
Yeah.
And that is why I love riding trains and planes, because I get more productive on the things that are passion projects for me, quite honestly. Well, our time is coming. We're at the hour. Do we have any other things that you all want to bring up? I was kind of scrolling through the chat to see if there's any other questions. I don't see any other prescient questions. Unless, chat, you want to load us up with a couple?
Oh wait, I see a question here. Hold on. It's just come in. Where can I get a sweet LegendKeeper T-shirt?
Yes.
Oh man. They just deleted the message, but I saw it. There's new LegendKeeper shirts available now at shop.legendkeeper.com, where you can get a sweet ass sword and fire T-shirt like this one.
Oh yeah. Whoa.
Brought to you by LegendKeeper's design team. Thanks, person who commented that and then deleted it. Can you delete messages on Twitch? Does this story track?
It does track. It does track. Most clever.
It's an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
I can see all timelines.
I think this coupon code still works, but if you put in Patreon, you get free shipping.
Oh, fun.
Very nice.
Very nice. Yeah, for all of us that did the Patreon thing, that's really cool of you, man.
The show. But yeah, we figured it was time to have some neat merch. We're actually going to be putting up some more stuff like mugs, and we have actually a couple more original designs of neat things. We have a cool D20 design that I really want to see manifested.
That's cool, man.
It's kind of like this like Dark Souls-y, rugged D20. You'll see.
Very nice.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that kind of stuff. I think that merchandise is a great way to like help creators, because like you get some bucks, I get a cool thing, right? That always feels good, and I can almost always find a spot for a new mug, or something along those lines. So that works for me really well. Well, chat, I think we are kind of near the end. Do any of y'all have other things that we need to make sure we get in for today's world building episode?
Well, I think we covered some pretty cool ground.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud. I think we did all right. Little self pat on the back there. So everybody at home, thanks a ton for tuning in. Let's go kind of around the horn. Braden, where can people find out about LegendKeeper?
They can find out about LegendKeeper at legendkeeper.com. It's got the whole spiel.
Yes, and you have a super active, super friendly Discord. Folks, you want to go there. There is a lot of world building tips in there. There's a lot of like really good like just content sharing going on in there, and like templates that people are making, and like it's just a great community, bar none. So join that.
Yeah, you can find that at the bottom of the legendkeeper.com. There's a link to the Discord that'll get you in. Lots of people that love talking about world building and LegendKeeper and all that good stuff.
Yes.
All the good things.
And Anto, where can people find Icarus Games?
People can find me. The best place to go is to icarus-games.co.uk. That's got all my links to my YouTube and Patreon and my Discord and all the various places that you find me trying to shout from the rooftops about tabletop RPGs.
Yes, very good stuff all around. And like your YouTube, you've always got some new content coming. How often do you publish videos?
At the moment, it's every other week. Okay. I've published a couple more than that recently, and hopefully we'll soon be publishing significantly more than that.
Ooh, what's going on there?
New release schedule, trying to back film like dozens of videos to be like, whoosh, here we go.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that one. So, Patrick, how can people get a hold of you and Two Brothers Gaming?
Probably the best place for mine is on Facebook. So Facebook group Two Brothers Gaming. Also have a Discord under that you find in the link. But our Facebook group is pretty active. Been working really hard on a RPG that we're working on with a fantasy setting. I even got a RPG a character sheet there. And then Dave, you'll like this. I think my Cyberpunk Red review is coming up on Blackgate on Monday.
Yes. I was wondering when you were going to submit that to Blackgate. I was like, that fool better get his review out. When's it coming? That's good. I'm really glad.
Monday. Preview. Slam dunk.
Yeah, of course. Man, they did such a good job. Yeah. So yeah, you write on Blackgate as one of the writers on there. It's a blog full of like really good fantasy articles. So everybody go check out all of Patrick's contributions. And you're like an author on Amazon. So like go buy Patrick's books because they're choice. Cyberpunky books as well, right? You've got some like detective stories and all that good stuff going on. It's like
there's some basically modern mystery novels right there, and then a couple of sci-fi, and then I'm working on some cyberpunk, and I've been immersed completely recently into the fantasy world that I've been working on. Like, I'm just so excited about it.
You're gonna make some books for that, aren't you? This sharded,
I've got
the Shattered Moon.
Yeah, trilogy RPG, a whole media empire coming your way.
I cannot wait, dude. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see you build this. That's gonna be so cool, man.
Yeah,
see, that's what that was an unexpected benefit of making High Shelf Gaming, was like meeting a lot of really crazy industrious creators that are like, I want to make something big. I don't want to like go small with this. I want to make something really big. So it's been like kind of a wonderful side benefit of doing this whole project. For folks who tuned in, this is High Shelf Gaming. You find us here on Twitch, on YouTube. We have a podcast all under the name High Shelf Gaming. We're on Discord and Facebook, all of those things. And we have a Teespring merch store. I got to tell y'all folks, I am not happy with it. So we are going to make a change as soon as I figure out how to make said change. Because Teespring charges shipping for each item, which sucks. You would think they'd be able to put them all in the same box and ship it all with one thing. So we're going to change that up. But by all means, find us on all the Discords and things and join us in some games, because that's what we want to do, is we want to play games with our community. And so with that, I think we are going to let you all go. I would love to raid this little channel called the Con Save. They have raided us many times. Oops, wrong button. They've raided us many times. They're a really fun crew. They today are playing some Cyberpunk. They're doing a little actual play of Cyberpunk. And you might not like actual plays, I completely understand. But still, follow the raid, give them some emotes, give them some feel goods. And what they're doing today is they're doing a backstory. So one of the characters has a bit of a background, and they're doing a flashback to like that character's origin story right now. A quick note. A lot of Cyberpunk games are like this. This is for mature audiences. So if you're sitting there watching with your kiddo, maybe don't follow this raid. All right.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm not allowed to hear bad words.
Yes, exactly.
So.
Yeah. So everybody, you are all great and wonderful. Thanks a ton for tuning in. As always, have fun and play well.
Thank you.
Or rated. And let me stop the stream.